This is as close as I can get to the microphone, y'all. Sorry. Okay, all right. I got an emotion to move closer, but this is as close as I can get. We're going to get started. Like I said, it's very warm. We appreciate you all coming out. My name is Jennifer Hagaya. I'm the Executive Director of Air Alliance Houston. We are the longest running advocacy nonprofit in Harris County, singularly focused on air quality. We believe everyone has the right to breathe clean air. Core to this mission, and the reason we're here today, is to monitor the sources of air pollution through research and to hold those polluters accountable through advocacy. Curtailing air pollution has never been more urgent as storms like the derecho and Hurricane Beryl barrel through our neighborhoods in ways we've never seen before due to the impacts of climate change. We know that what pollutes the air also warms the climate. So, to rein in climate impacts like extreme weather, we must rein in air polluters. But where do we start? And that's a fair question. We always hear that Houston is the energy capital of the world. That's because almost 50% of the nation's petrochemical capacity is right around us, up and down the Houston Ship Channel. And with so much industry, how do we know who is responsible and who we should hold accountable? Today, we are here to answer those questions. Today, Air Alliance Houston is unveiling the definitive list of the worst air and climate polluters in Harris County, what we call the Dirty Dozen, based on 5 different publicly available state and national data sources. We are doing so right across the street from the top polluter in our area, and you'll hear more about that from our panel of expert speakers this morning. Before they begin, I do want to acknowledge the people who made this report possible. The primary author of the report, Oscar Pacheco, our Data and Policy Fellow, with input from Dr. Inyang, Uwak, Anthony D'Souza, and Rika Pojankoski. Our partners and speakers, the Harris County Attorney's Office, Environmental Defense Fund, Environment Texas, Environmental Integrity Project, and Beyond Petrochemicals. They are true champions and allies in the fight for clean air. And I want to acknowledge the community members here in Baytown, in Channelview, Deer Park, LaPorte, in all of the fence line neighborhoods living with chronic polluters with whom we stand side by side to say enough is enough. And with that, I want to welcome up our first speaker, Dr. Inyang Uwak, Air Alliance Houston's Director of Research and Policy, who will review the core findings of the report. Please know that we're going to hold all questions until all speakers have spoken at the end of the formal presentation. Welcome, Dr. Uwak.
Thanks again. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I want to start by using this opportunity to thank our partners again, Beyond Petrochemical, Environmental Integrity Project, Environment Texas, Environmental Defense Fund, and special thanks as well to our Harris County Attorney for honoring our invitation. I would also want to give special thanks to our research fellow, Oscar Pacheco, whose hard work and unwavering commitment made this report possible. In 2005, Houston Mayor Theo White's task force on the health effects of air pollution was formed to identify priority pollutants in the city of Houston. A year later, a dozen compounds were judged to pose a definite risk to human health, according to their respective impacts. And these compounds were benzene, hexavalent chromium, 1,3-butadiene, formaldehyde, ozone, fine particulate matter, and a host of other compounds. The distribution of this risk was found to be far from equal. The task force identified that definite risks were found in more significant numbers in several East Houston neighborhoods and right across the Ship Channel. Our report, almost 20 years later, sought to augment those findings by compiling the highest industrial sources of air pollution. We utilized multiple publicly available data sources from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the Texas Commission for Environmental Quality. We used this data to identify the industrial sources that contributed the most to air pollution in Houston. One of our data sources, EPA's Toxic Waste Inventory, showed that most petrochemical facilities were in Pasadena, Deer Park, Channel, and Baytown. The top 3 compounds most emitted inside were ethylene, propylene, and ammonia. The CLA data also revealed that for the study years 2018 to 2022, the facility with the most emissions out of over 300 facilities was ExxonMobil Baytown, hence our choice of location. The facility with the most emissions was closely followed by Exxon, was closely followed by Landell Basil's Channel Beauty Plant, with Chevron Phillips Baytown facility as third. These three facilities account for 60% of the chemical releases in Harris County. Regarding greenhouse gas emissions, ExxonMobil Baytown has the highest carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide emissions. Atascocita recycling and recycling landfills were the highest emissions of methane in Harris County during ASPO. Greenhouse gases are heat trapping gases that make and climate warmer, thereby driving climate change. The impact of climate change is already evident in our region, from heat waves, dry seasons, precipitation like we saw 3 years straight rainfall, and frequent and sometimes catastrophic weather events like hurricanes. We got out of Hurricane Beryl, and 2 weeks prior we had the direction windstorm. These effects are due to climate warming emissions and have far-reaching consequences. This report should serve as an urgent call to industry to clean up their act, considering the public health and environmental impact of their emissions on our communities. The time for action is now. We need to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, seek innovative ways to reduce risk, which is Dr. saying, and utilize cleaner and more efficient fuels to reduce the health and environmental impact. This is a challenging task, but it is also a path towards a healthier, more sustainable future for Michigan. Thank you. I will now hand it over to Harris County Attorney.
Good morning. I'm Menefee, the Harris County Attorney, and I'm happy to be here with you today to stand side by side with environmental advocates and with Airlines Houston to discuss this report. What I want to focus on today is our state legislators and our state regulators need to do their jobs now to protect communities before the next big issue happens that harms the community. We've seen in wake of Hurricane Beryl, there's hearings going on for a certain energy company in Houston, and every single senator is prepared to rake them over the coals, but people have already died. We saw out in Fifth Ward, there was expansive creosote contamination, and people throughout the community got cancer, and that's when everybody wanted to jump in the game and get on that community's deck, on that company's deck, was after those people got cancer and died. It's too late at that point. What we're seeing here is real data showing that there is a set of companies that are polluting way more than the other companies out there. My message to those companies is, you are the neighbors of the people who live in these communities. If you want to be a neighbor to Harris County residents, it is incumbent that you do the right thing. You need to follow state laws, and to the folks out in Austin, we need to change state laws. My office just recently went to the TCEQ and asked them to change their air quality rules to be more in line with national standards. The federal government sets the national standards. They have decreased those standards, right, to make them more stringent over time, over the past 20 years. And we still have not seen the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality align itself with those federal standards, right? Instead, they just continue to let folks pollute. Public servants have a duty to protect community, to care about people, right? Every single individual in this community should matter just as much as the CEO who can cut a big check to the lieutenant governor or whoever else. It's incumbent upon legislators and regulators to hold these people accountable, and it's incumbent upon these companies to treat the people in these communities like the folks who they are. That's their neighbors. We expect them to do right by their communities and do right by their neighbors. So that's why I'm here today to support this effort, to make sure that these companies know that, you know, we're grateful for the jobs that you bring to our communities, we're grateful for how you benefit the economy, but all of that means nothing if you're poisoning the people who live nearby.
all have the right to breathe clean air, but every day people across Harris County are exposed to pollution that puts their health at risk. Air Alliance Houston's new report is a valuable tool for demanding greater accountability from the facilities that contribute significantly to the health risks in the region, and from the agencies that are tasked with enforcing environmental laws. This Dirty Dozen report documents more than 250 different toxic chemicals released into the air from 2018 to 2019 based on data reported by industry, including millions of pounds of ethylene, propylene, butadiene, benzene, ammonia, and methanol, which serve as the building blocks for plastics, pesticides, industrial chemicals, and substances that pose a threat not only to our environment, but also to our health. These are the chemicals that cause chronic diseases, acute health effects, or may produce adverse environmental conditions. Among the 30 hazardous air pollutants that pose the greatest potential health risk in urban areas, Air Alliance's analysis found 13 of these 30 urban air toxics released in Harris County during their study period. These include ethylene oxide and formaldehyde, which are the biggest cancer risk to our entire region. They also document benzene, butadiene, vinyl chloride, and other chemicals that are considered carcinogens, and others linked to respiratory, reproductive, neurologic, and other health effects. Some of these chemicals have been measured at air monitors in our region for more than 20 years, and that's unacceptable. These Dirty Dozen facilities are also a substantial source of carbon pollution, which threatens our climate locally and globally. Maps in this Dirty Dozen report clearly show the concentration of industrial facilities clustered in East Houston and along the Houston Ship Channel, where many communities of color have lived for generations. These same communities have added vulnerability from social determinants of health, such as high poverty rates, poorly performing schools, lack of affordable housing, little health infrastructure, and crime, among the factors that compound the disproportionate environmental burdens these communities face daily. More thoughtful consideration should be given to the public health implications of combined air pollutant exposure and cumulative impacts that climate, environmental justice communities in Baytown and across Houston face. Air Alliance's Dirty Dozen report demonstrates how to connect the dots and identify where action and accountability can be most impactful for the health of our citizens.
Good morning. My name is Luke Metzger. I'm the Executive Director of Environment Texas. We're a nonprofit advocate for clean air and water, parks and wildlife, and a livable climate. And we're here today to talk about the Dirty Dozen polluters of Houston. But there's one facility that stands head and shoulders above all the rest, and that is the ExxonMobil Baytown Refinery and Chemical Plant Complex here, which, as the county attorney said, is a neighbor to the community of Baytown. But as the Dirty Dozen report shows, Exxon is not a good neighbor to the Baytown community. This is a facility that is the largest source of air pollution in Houston, and one of the dirtiest in America, the 6th largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. It also has a long record of fires and explosions and violations of clean air laws. For example, after Environment Texas and the Sierra Club sued Exxon in this facility specifically, a federal judge ordered the company to pay almost $20 million in penalties for releasing an extra 10 million pounds of pollution above and beyond what they're legally allowed to into the community. And shockingly, rather than push Exxon to reduce its pollution, earlier this month, state regulators of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality gave approval to Exxon to increase its pollution at its olefins plant, all to produce, in part, single-use plastics, which we don't really need, and go on to pollute the environment in their own right. Some Baytown residents call the existing 8-steam cracking furnaces at the olefins plant, the 8-headed dragon, because of the flames, the smoke, and the noxious fumes that they generate. The TCEQ has given Exxon permission to build a 9th dragon, a 9th cracking furnace, which would add 300,000 pounds of pollution to the Baytown air each year. In granting the permit, TCEQ is allowing ExxonMobil to avoid pollution requirements for facilities located in areas that are designated as a severe non-attainment for ozone, like Greater Houston. The state of Texas is cheating the people of Baytown and the Greater Houston community out of clean air. It's giving Exxon a free pass to keep dirtying the community already getting sick from their pollution. We need the US EPA to step in and make Exxon clean up its act. Thank you.
I will wrap up this press conference with a call to action at all levels. It is imperative that we all, from industrial facilities to regulatory agencies and the general public, take immediate and concrete steps to reduce air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Our collective action is crucial in protecting our communities and the environment. Industrial facilities must operate within their premises and be good neighbors. Simply handing out scholarships while polluting is not being good. They also need to take concrete steps to lower their emissions and reduce their reliance on fossil fuels. The TCEQ needs to acknowledge the community's power to advocate for their health during permit meetings, legislative sessions, air monitoring, and reporting violations. It is one thing for the community to show up at these permit meetings and give comments, but most importantly, those comments must truly influence TCEQ's decisions. TCEQ must be fundamentally committed to considering community members' needs and concerns in their decision making. Finally, we need more protective permits and rules at the state level that take into consideration cumulative impacts of these emissions. Each of us needs to adopt a long-term view of climate change. We cannot continue business as usual. The impact of climate change is upon us, and it is left to us to take action. And with that, I will hand over to our final word.
On behalf of Airlines Houston, I want to thank all of our speakers for being here today. They and community members will be available for questions after we close, and Rika, right here, can help connect you to those community members as well. The full report of the new Dirty Dozen can be found now on our website at www.airalliancehouston.org. I encourage you to go there. It is translated. It is visualized. We have a map of the locations here for you as well to see where these facilities are located. And lastly, I want to thank some other members of the Air Alliance team who made this event possible. Our brilliant communications team, of course, Rika, Brenda Franco, Cassie Casedas-Klein, and Jose Monterosa, and Ingrid Fenton, our Director of Operations, who moved tarps and podiums and other mountains when we had to postpone this event. And you might remember we postponed this event because of a hurricane that swept through our community. We have the tools. We know the solutions. We know what we need to do to rein in air pollution and climate change. We just need to be brave, we just need to be bold, and we just need the will to act. Thank you all for being here to cover this important story. This concludes our formal event, and I hope you have a safe rest of your week.